Welcome back to another edition of Between Two FARS. I'm Vicki Miller, and I'm here with some stellar NASA attorneys, our veterans of procurement law, Robert Tepfer and Michael Mark. And we're going to talk to you today about a very important aspect of bid protests, and that's corrective action. There are two times when you have to think about corrective action. At the beginning, when you've got a choice, and sometimes at the end when the GAO tells you what to do. So let's take a look at that first time that you need to think about corrective action. Bob, Michael, what is corrective action and why do you have to think about it at the very beginning of a bid protest?
Well, I think you need to think about it at the very beginning, because if you stop early, I think you have more discretion in structuring that corrective action, which can be advantageous to you as opposed to somebody telling you how it's going to occur. The other thing is the aspect of attorney's fees. If you make it within the 30-day period, which the client needs to really be carefully informed of, that, once we cross this line, you could be paying whatever, $500 an hour with regard to the attorney, along with having corrective action. So that's part of why it's very significant.
And corrective action is basically amending the RFP in some manner to address the concerns. It's often either the requirement isn't clearly stated, it may be they say it's skewed towards a given product and they can't offer that product, but there are other products that are just as good. It may be that the evaluation criteria are unclear. It may be that the proposal instructions are either not clear or are very onerous. There can be any number of reasons. We had a protest many years ago where we had included, it was a bundled contract, and we had included surveying, and we had already told the company that already had the surveying contract we didn't intend to do that, but somehow it got through. So he filed a protest at the GAO to say, wait a minute, this is improperly bundled and I have the contract and I'm being wronged. And we agreed. So we did say, okay, we will take corrective action. We will remove that requirement from the RFP. And we did that within the first 30 days. It was funny because the lawyer for the protester then argued to the GAO attorney that he should get paid. And the GAO attorney was very dismissive of that and pointed to the rules and say, no, you're not entitled to that.
Yeah, it's almost like that first 30 days, you've got a window where you can press the stop button without getting a bill. And it's important that you act and decide what you're going to do in those first 30 days. Have either of you had that situation where the award decision is made and the award decision is protested, where they've called you to the mat and said, you didn't analyze the proposal the way you said you would? Have any of you had to press that stop button and say, oh, they're right, let's go back and reanalyze properly?
Yes, that can take literally months, and you have to sit the board down and say, look, we're not in a defensive position anymore. Your job is not to re-explain that we were right the first time around.
Right.
You actually have to, in good faith, go back and do whatever is been laid out and evaluate consistent with whatever the corrective action is. You could have a corrective action area in the first 30 days that speaks to evaluation along with deficiencies in the solicitation. But normally, at least in the first 30 days, if you go ahead and say, yeah, we need to go back and correct, the board does not feel quite the same way. The advocacy juices build up, and you have to say it's changed now. We're now, we are, good soldiers here for the government. We have to treat these people fairly. We've been told to do this, and now we're going to go ahead and do it. And you have to remind them again that if there's a hearing on the second time, and I've had that happen, where you have to go back, folks are going to be asking, did you really reevaluate consistently in good faith based upon the direction that you received? And I hope that you can under oath say that you did.
And it's a very humbling experience, I think, to be taking those steps right after your team has poured their heart and soul into these evaluations to say, oh, they raise a good point. We didn't think about this. We need to go back and do it again with fresh eyes. But Bob, as Bob said, it can take months to properly reevaluate. But if you go through with the bid protest, that's 100 days right there that will be eaten up, and you may still have to go back after that if you get corrective action on the back end. And I think we need to talk about that a little bit too. What happens when you get corrective action after the bid protest decision has been handed down by the GAO? Any other issues you want to talk about this early concept of corrective action, or would you just like to come back again next time to talk about the latter aspect of corrective action?
We can come back. I'd just argue that you always need to try to be as fair as possible to the offerors, and as long as you're doing that, you'll be okay.
Excellent. That is an excellent way to end. Fairness is our hallmark. We'll see you next time between two FARS.